We don't want to leave state government out of the innovation conversation, and one of the areas of fastest change is in crime-fighting technologies. The Sturgis rally is always a curiosity to all of us. While most attendees are good, law-abiding citizens, it still has an underbelly of criminal activity. We're about to hear some never-told stories of how the Division of Criminal Investigation in South Dakota cracks cases there. Please help me welcome to the stage Special Agent Dan Byron for True Crime and True Tech from Sturgis.
Morning. I'm Dan Byron. I'm with the South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation. I'm a special agent and I'm the major case manager for the east side of South Dakota. I started my career with the Sioux Falls Area Drug Task Force. I spent 8 years on the Drug Task Force. And during my time with the Drug Task Force, I was also on the Highway Patrol SWAT team. So I kind of got my experience. In 2016, I switched over to our Tech Services unit. At the time, Tech Services was 2 people, Chad Carpenter, a special agent, and then a counter-drug analyst. We've grown a lot since then. Listening to them talking about their issues, we have a lot of the same issues. One of them being that we haven't had a budget. Everything that we've done so far has been off of grants. We have, sorry, that's my contact information I had at the beginning, in case you don't make it to the end. So, a little bit about the program. It's been in existence for about 9 years. It started off with Chad creating cameras. Pole cameras is what they're referred to. Pole cameras, they were overt and covert. And then in 2016, I switched over to kind of help grow the program. In 2017, Governor's initiative, the METH initiative, kind of switched gears and moved into this major case manager program. A major case manager program was to utilize the technology that we had and help create more opportunities and fill different voids that we had found and that I had found during my investigations. So we have, to date, we have estimated about $1 million in assets. We have many different platforms and various types of technology that we're utilizing. Like they said, we're using this data to drive or create intelligence, which in turn drives our law enforcement activities. It helps us narrow down what we're trying to identify, focus on, and it's sort of a force multiplier. We're a small state. DCI has approximately 54 agents, so we really do have limited resources. So some of the events that we cover are Sturgis. Obviously, that's our main one. Sturgis is our biggest project to date. When we started, we got an estimate, and our estimate was to create the network of cameras was like $1.2 million. We were able to do it for about $380,000. That was all on a Homeland Security grant. Some of the other events that we cover across the state are Hobo Days, Jazz Fest. You'll see our trailer out there. I think some of the other stuff that we've got. So really there's 2 platforms. Our 2 platforms are surveillance, like video, and phones. So between the 2, my unit covers the phone side of things, and I'll cover that pretty extensively, but the other side is the video. The different platforms we've created, you pretty much put a camera in just about anything, and these cameras are rotating off of a server that's located here in Sioux Falls. In the recent, this past couple months, we upgraded, we've expanded, we've moved from about 3 FTEs to about 11. So our 11 FTEs outgrew the building that we were in, so we were fortunate enough to move into a new building to expand. But as far as the phone program goes, and this is where I really started in 2017, the phone program covers pen register trap and trace, cell site location, and wiretaps. This program, we found out as we were going along, we had to redo the state law. We had to purchase the equipment, and then we had to learn how to really use the equipment. So, Sturgis. Sturgis is our main, there's about 80 cameras. The 80 cameras operate about half our fiber, half our radio. We operate off a milestone. I think we have over 100 terabytes of space where the data is collected. And then it was built off that Homeland Security. This is a picture of our operations center. Our operations center is in the basement of a DCI building and a state shop. While it doesn't look like there's a whole lot going on, it's all 80 cameras are on the monitors. We can switch through them. Many of them are PTZ cameras. They're great to, the overall public safety, but they're also there to focus on the outlaw motorcycle gangs that have set up and frequent Sturgis. We look at it as, if something bad's going to happen, the probability is that it's going to be these outlaw motorcycle gangs getting in fights with each other. And we've had several instances where they've targeted each other and committed violent crimes. The other thing I should mention is that there are a lot of people, a lot of different law enforcement agencies, as well as city, county, state patrol. They all utilize these cameras. There's viewing stations at the city, I believe it's in City Hall. There's one at the city PD in Sturgis. So there's a lot of people that are watching it. When I go to Sturgis, and I've been to many rallies, this is actually the first year in a long time that I didn't go, I spend most of my time watching the 1% motorcycle gangs go up and down the road. We work to identify who they are, their activities, and if something bad does occur, then we go to try to find who it may have been. A lot of the problems that we have with the outlaw motorcycle gangs is that they don't talk. So if something does happen, it's against their bylaws to talk to the police. So we don't usually end up with any witnesses. And that's one thing that these cameras have really done a good job on. A few years ago, we had a stabbing. The Hells Angels clubhouse has many cameras looking at it. We had some intelligence going into it that, hey, the Mongols are in town, may cause some problems, but it appeared like everything was going to be normal and that things were going to be fine. They walked up straight down the street, right up to the Hells Angels clubhouse. When they got to the clubhouse, they shook hands. And I mean, at the time, I don't think it was really realized, but at the time, some of the Hells Angels members were hiding behind the trees. They popped out, ran up, and it was a fight in the middle of the street. Several people were stabbed, and luckily we had the video evidence to get them prosecuted. Otherwise, there were no victims because nobody wanted to be a victim, and there were no witnesses because nobody wants to be a witness in one of these deals. So we utilize these cameras a lot. They're a great tool for us. It's a great system. It's like I said before, it's really a force multiplier. With that many people in such a small area, it's very hard to, and it's easy to miss a crime or something that occurred. But on this, pretty much every corner of Sturgis is covered, and it's recording 24/7. Now, there are times that cameras go up and down, and that's one of the issues that we're having, is that we're hitting about 5 years on most of these cameras, and these cameras are starting to get outdated. And so at that point, we have to come up with a plan of how we're going to replace them. So those are some of the issues that we have with the system, but it is a very steady system. We only replace cameras occasionally. So, and the radio system that we have has managed to withstand all of the rallies, and we've had really no serious outages. So our mobile camera trailer, this was a thing that we took from the Highway Patrol, or was given by the Highway Patrol, I should say. They gave it to us, we updated it, and now we haul it along. The thing is a tank, it weighs a ton, but it's very useful. We've used it for all sorts of events. That's what it looks like on the inside, if you can see it. And those are what the monitors bring up. So we've got a thermal camera, we've got a masked camera, and then overt versus covert. Most of the stuff that I do in my day-to-day is covert. This is a picture in our old shop, you never really know, or even in our new shop, you never really know what's being recorded or where the camera is or what they're doing. In this case, I did know that he had put a camera up on my desk because he thought it was funny. But walking through our shop now, there's always some sort of camera. There's lots of different hides, and they have tried just about everything, from anything from going to the state prison to, oh man, buttonhole cameras, different like shirt buttonhole cameras for hotels. There's all sorts of platforms, but they're not afraid to try new things. Rocks, toasters, I don't know, whatever. There's an example of one of our covert cameras. Our covert camera can be hidden pretty much anywhere. Now, in the last couple of years, we've gone to doing search warrants. So we will write a search warrant to put a camera up. We're probably one of 2 states that's doing search warrants to put these up. But we had some issues a couple of years ago where we found out that we better have a search warrant on these. So this is an investigation that took place in 2014. We've been utilizing these cameras for a long time, and that's fair. I mean, that's pretty typical what the image that you get on your cameras is. But the nice thing is when you're working these investigations and when you're working in a task force setting, there's all sorts of stuff going on all day, and you need to have the ability to continue an investigation even though you guys are out doing other things. So it's recording. When you finally get back to your desk, you can sit down and go through it. So on my side of it, I supervise 5 analysts. I have 3 guard analysts and 2 DCI analysts. Our guard analysts come from the counter drug program. They are assigned to different regions in the state. I have a Northeast analyst, an analyst assigned to Sioux Falls Area Drug Task Force, and an analyst that covers South Central South Dakota. Then the other 2 analysts, one is assigned to the Fusion Center, and then we have a HIDA analyst, and she covers both the major case program and DEA. They have a variety of duties. We have a lot of different databases, and again, we're utilizing this data to generate intelligence, which in turn drives the direction that they're going. Since 2017, we purchased the program Saitec. They spent a lot of time utilizing Saitec. We've ran over 80-ish pen register trap and trace with cell site locations since we purchased the equipment. We spent a lot of time utilizing it, and I'll kind of go over some of that other stuff. And then HISN pages. HISN pages are kind of like a digital whiteboard that we drive all of our information to. The major case program, it's meth initiative driven. The goals of our program are to identify and dismantle organized crime in South Dakota. And recently, I think before this program, I would have said, yeah, from time to time we have different organizations that's set up here. What we're finding is that they're way more organized and they're way more equipped than we are. Their technology is typically better, and now we're fighting the encrypted. So if they're utilizing encrypted, that's creating a huge problem for us, and some of the stuff that we're unable to pick up on what we have currently. So Saitec helps us identify the patterns, their contacts, and their locations. Different sides of it, I think I have, but generally for a pen register trap and trace, we'll do a court order, and for the cell site location, we'll do a search warrant. So we're doing paperwork through the courts to utilize this equipment. And so then we're also working to increase our communication. We found that statewide, we tend to not talk as much as we should. We don't share information as well, and so we've been really working on how do we share large amounts of information with lots of different people who have interest in what we're doing. And it's not perfect yet. We're still working on it, but it definitely has improved things. And so the other part of it is the historical phone investigation, so I'll kind of get into that. But again, in 2017, things like this started popping up. We started realizing, hey, you know, there are a lot of signs out there that are telling us we've got a problem. And the problem isn't just meth, it's opioids, it's It's organized crime that have set up. And there's different reasons that these organized crime groups have set up in South Dakota. And the main reason is money. They set up here because on the border, the drugs are not worth anything. You know, if they can get the drugs to South Dakota and can create a market for South Dakota, it drives their profits exponentially. It's huge how much difference it is. So whatever they get up here and sell and are able to get back is all profit for them. And I'm gonna talk about how some of this works. But the combination of the cameras and the combination of the phone work helps us get a better idea of how they're operating and who's involved. So we've had our historical investigations, and that's pretty typical. It's kind of that run and gun, you know, you're active all the time, you've got a lot of stuff going. You know, a couple buys, we're going to do a search warrant, we're going to go in and you're busy. It's kind of busy work. The problem is you don't get that real-time information. You don't really know what's going on, and you're hoping that if you get the right person that they tell you the right thing that helps you move forward in your investigation. With these real-time investigations, with the phones, with the cameras, we're finding out right now what's happening. We're generating our own information so we don't have to rely on our bad guys to tell us what's going on. And that helps us move a lot faster through these groups. Prior to this, prior to 2017, you would do an investigation. 3 months later, you'd do your interview. And after you did your interview, hopefully they told you something. But 3 months ago is when that occurred. So these people have already switched their tactics. The good organized crime groups switched their tactics, switched their phone numbers, switched the people they're using, and are just moving right along. And everybody who's been caught is just part of doing business. As long as they don't talk, and as long as you're able to change your methods, you're going to be fine. And that's what we're finding, is that these guys hang on and continue committing the same crimes for a long time. So the real-time investigations are proactive, they're intelligence-led, and then we're developing these leads from our technology, whether it's we're watching people arrive on camera, we're identifying through that, or we're using the phones. Oh, and the other problem with the historical is that they're manpower intensive. The days of sitting in a car, conducting surveillance on the street, watching for people to come and go, are long gone. It's not like you see in the movies. You know, there's that. You see these guys with the binoculars sitting there for 8 hours. That really doesn't happen like it used to. It's not productive. There's a lot of other things that can be going on instead of sitting in your car. And so that's what we've really tried to hone in and focus on to improve. So what led to us changing our tactics? Well, in 2012, 2013, I've been working a couple investigations, and one that I had a camera out on. So I had a camera on this, and I wasn't finding anything. I see the people come and go. It looked pretty normal. You know, when we're watching to see if people are coming and going quickly, if a lot of things are happening. But I didn't see anything. I got distracted and moved on to something else. Pulled the camera. And a few weeks after I pulled the camera, we got a call from a hotel. And the hotel said, hey, we got some people, they're acting really weird. They're trying to get back into this hotel room, and we don't feel comfortable letting them back in. So I was sitting at the office, a couple patrol guys had gone out to respond to it, and when they get there, they find that there was a large stack of money sitting under the hotel bed. And so that picture is the large stack of money, and when they brought it in, they're like, well, I think it's probably about $20,000. And so we get it there, I'm like, I think that's a lot more than $20,000. So we started counting it, and we sent a couple other patrol guys with a canine up to see if these people moved, because at this point we had enough reason to go investigate what they were up to. So they make the traffic stop as they started going mobile, and when they get to it, they find these pipes. I think I got a better picture. They get to this vehicle. They've got these tubes in the back. So they call out a bomb unit, because at first they're like, oh, that doesn't look good. It was something that we hadn't seen before. So bomb guys are like, no, it's good. Go ahead and open it up. So we open it up, and we get 9 pounds of meth and about That money ended up being about 90-some thousand, and then there was some money at their house when we did the search warrant. But the problem with the investigation was we didn't get anything other than these people that were involved. We tried to do a historical, we went and interviewed these people after, and what they told us was, hey, you know, I don't really know anything about it. The younger guy, who was the female son on the left, he showed up one day with a backpack with the bag and the money and gave it to us, and we didn't know what to do with it. So at first we stashed it and hid it, but we were just driving around because we didn't know what to do with it. And that was it. The investigation stopped right there. They said it was coming out of Omaha, and there was nothing else we could do. And that was really frustrating. It was the most meth that I had seen in an investigation, and then it was also the most amount of cash that I had seen. Combined, you generally get one or the other. You don't get both of them. So it was one of those, another sign where I was like, hey, we do have an issue here. We can't make this case go forward unless we start doing better investigations. So we started working on groups. And this is a case from 2012 where we knew that this was a big group, that they were operating with cartel connections, and that we had seen a lot of these people before. And that's kind of another issue that we have, is that we get a lot of these people who are our frequent flyers, the people that continually show up and commit crimes in our community. But there's really, aside from arresting them, they'll take their hit, they may go to prison for a year or two, but they're right back out and they're right back into the same thing. And our main guy here, Hugo, was right in that same avenue. He got stopped on a traffic stop on his way through South Dakota with a large amount of drugs, does prison time, gets out, goes back and sets up in Hill City, South Dakota. When he sets up, well, he's already got his cartel ties, and he starts moving and trafficking more drugs through the state, which started with cocaine and moved into meth. So it's a very slow process. We start working these people individually and hoping that they start to talk to us and provide more information. And eventually, after a year or two, we get to Hugo. And in a joint investigation with FBI out of Washington, Washington's able to go to the sources, the cartel sources in Washington that had set up, and they knocked down a lot of them. But it was another frustrating, you know, we continue to see these people, and a lot of these people have had numerous cases after this, and numerous federal cases after this. So we're still looking for a better way. So in 2016, this is my final case at the Sioux Falls Area Drug Task Force. These guys had set up. Since I got to South Dakota in 2008, I'd been hearing about the Tri-City Bombers that had set up in Sioux Falls. The Tri-City Bombers is a street gang out of Texas. They're out of Tri-City. I always forget all of it, but it's Edinburgh, Farr, and another city. They're a pretty big street gang. They are skilled in moving drugs and a very violent group. And we'd had a lot of crimes committed by a lot of these people that had been here for a long time, but we'd never been able to put them away for that long. So we get information, I start working on Martin Rios, and Martin had a house right across the street from Augustana. So like, pretty normal looking house, not much to it. We start watching it, same type of thing, but the difference is I had a camera up on this house, and the camera, although while I was watching it, didn't appear to generate really that good of leads. After the fact came into play because all of that video came into play when we went to court and trial. It had a lot of good leads. Anyway, it led us up the tree to the people who were responsible out of Texas. And so in working with the DEA out of Texas, they were able to put together a RICO case on 27 members of the Tri-City Bombers. And so we started to make some progress, but again, in South Dakota, we got our handful of people. I think it was 4. We got 4 people, but we had all these people at the bottom. All the people at the bottom are our frequent flyers, the people that we see all the time that may or may not have taken a hit in this case, but are right back out on parole doing the same thing. And so a lot of what we're doing now is generated from these types of cases. So Saitec, it's just a real-time program where we receive information from phone companies that provides us data based on contacts. So you get their texts and phone calls and locations. And so each one has a certain amount of time, but this is what it looks like. This is what our dashboard looks like when we're looking at it. And currently we've got a lot of these going on in different investigations. But you can see as the person with the phone starts to move, and then they make a phone call which connects to a cell tower, we get a red ping. And so our pings will show the phone number that they're contacting, and will also show their location. Takes all that information, organizes it for us, and gives us a target or targets. And we start to work off of that list. So it's like a live leads. Generally, these people have something to do with what we're into. And our cartel links are popping up more and more every day. We're able to track these things back. We're making very good progress in identifying people that are higher up, and that's where we want to spend most of our time, which is also time intensive, takes a lot of resources to get there, and we're still fighting that where people don't have the patience to deal with it long term. They want to see instant stats, they want to see arrest numbers, and yeah, we want to put people in jail, but with the jail population and the prison population, we're trying to focus on putting the right people in prison for a long time so that we don't have to continue dealing with them. I'm going to go over one more case review, and I'm getting to my time here. This is a case that started in Madison. This case was an eye-opener to me. It was a very good case. It was one of the first cases that we were able to get a lot of real-time information quick. Bank tipped us off and said, there's a group of Mexican males that are depositing money, and that they're not just depositing money into the same bank accounts, but they're depositing money into lots of different bank accounts. And these bank accounts are set up in California and Texas. Never heard of this, people. Go out, some old-fashioned cop work, go out and make a traffic stop. That's what, that's what we've been used to. Go out and make a traffic stop, get them identified. Well, immediately, two guys in the car identify themselves. One is a Mexican national, and the other one is a gang member from Sioux City. He's got a gun on him. He puts the gun on the dashboard when the cops come up, puts his hands up. He's been through the deal. We identify him, nothing. We hadn't heard of these people. We had no idea what they were up to, just that they were getting lots of money. We had no information coming from informants. It was just kind of an eye-opener that these guys had set up in Madison. So it's called the Black Market Peso Exchange. It's moving drug money legally to, well, illegal drug money, and then washing it through legitimate companies. These guys did not, on the front, when we're looking at them, they did not appear to be part of an organized crime group. They seemed not very intelligent, but once we started digging into them, we went up on their phones and started finding out that, hey, these guys are really connected. We started deconflicting through different law enforcement databases that they had some serious connections. So the nice thing, though, about some of the guys is that they were posting on their Facebook pages, and this picture is a post of one of the guys' Facebook pages. So, okay, we identify him through the traffic stop, and here he is posting his gun. That's probably a pound of meth, or 2 guns and a couple lines and some cash, and the title or the caption was, "Now you know." So that kind of stuff assists you, but also doesn't lead you really anywhere. I mean, yeah, okay, this guy's a drug dealer, not really leading us anywhere. So we created that intelligence, identified people that we were going to go try to find, and luckily we were able to find some people, and we were able to purchase some narcotics from them. That's a kilo, 2.2 pounds, and, well, almost. Never quite right. It's never quite on. There's always a little lighter, or it's never a little more, so. But that was a good start to really putting this investigation on them. The other thing that we were doing is getting into their social media, and their social media through search warrants provided a lot of good leads. This is a nice picture that he was sending back to Mexico, and the CJNG is the Cartel Nuevo Jalisco Generation, and they're like an up-and-coming cartel. They're very violent, and they're very active. And right now, the flow of drugs that's coming from Mexico is generated a lot by the rivals. And I'm not sure there's certainly, not sure they're rivals, but they're definitely kind of competing to push drugs to America because there's so much profit there. So they work independently. The fight in Mexico is over territory. They want to have the access to the U.S., so they will fight and they will do whatever it takes to create that access or to have that power to be able to access it. And it's led to, I think last year in Mexico there was something like 30,000 homicides. And a lot of it, or most of it, is generated by the cartel's activities to push drugs. But in the end, their major or main point is to make money. And so when they have good people out there in South Dakota who are pushing a lot of drugs to make money, and they're making money, these guys want them to know, hey, look at this, I'm making money for you, I'm going to send it back. Just want you to know, because that is looked upon well with these cartels. So the flow of drugs, this is something that is happening every day. The business that we're in right now is one that I'd like to say we were really making an impact, but it just continues. It is, when I started in 2008, we would buy a gram, maybe a couple grams. If we got an ounce of meth or coke or something, that was a big deal. If we got a pound, that was like unheard of. And now, it's like, man, you could find a pound on the street corner. You could find fentanyl anywhere you go. And we've had 70 some overdoses in South Dakota, maybe even Sioux Falls, and like 20 deaths so far this year. It's getting to that point where we've got a major problem that we need to keep addressing. And by utilizing this technology, we definitely have a better chance to identify and target these groups. But we got a lot of work to do. And the other thing I was going to say is that these drugs used to kind of travel alone. They used to go up and down the roads where, okay, well, this guy's a meth guy, this guy's a heroin guy, and that guy's a coke guy. Well, now they're all together. Whatever's happening with the groups that are pushing the drugs are putting them all together and just sending them up and down the road. And so these are just examples of posts that I see every day. This one was 158 pounds of meth and 3,000 fentanyl pills. Another one, 18 kilos of meth. And I mean, this is getting to the point where, and I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, but there were like thousands of pounds of drugs taken off every day. So we need to continue to, one, keep up on our technology. We're trying to find more funding resources to assist us, and we're trying to combat these groups that have better technology and way more resources than we have. So it's a big job, but it's one that we're tackling and that we're trying to, and that we're growing in our program to better South Dakota. So thank you.